Hello fellow book nerds, let's talk about my newest obsession. Hello everyone, this is Gabby and today we are talking about books that make me feel like From Blood and Ash did. So I recently read From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L Armentrout, I think, and I'm obsessed. I am obsessed. I don't know what happened. Like, I just read it and then I needed to read the sequel right away. And then I read the sequel. I was like, well, now I need to start book 3. And I started book 3. I didn't have time to finish it. And I was like, that's all I could think about. I would dream about it. It was intense. So I thought, why not give you a recommendations video, because a new book is coming out soon, I think sometime in March. And I wanted to give you a recommendations video on books that gave me the same serotonin boost as From Blood and Ash, aka made me feel similar, gut-wrenching, pulling out my insides, like angst and beautiful feelings around the main couple. So these are basically my favorite romances because I love it when it's just torture. The more torture, the more I love it. But it's a very specific torture. So I'm going to explain to you why each book kind of, I think, can be comparable to From Blood and Ash, or why it made me feel similar, clench of the gut. If you've not read From Blood and Ash, it's a story about a woman who's been hailed as the chosen one, maiden, and she lives in the society where she's very, very protected, and she knows she will ascend one day. And ascending, well, we don't actually know what it is, but we know it changes you. She doesn't know what ascending is, but she knows that's what she's destined to do, and she's lived an extremely sheltered life. She wears a veil, no one can look upon her, no one can touch her, no one can really talk to her. So that's the main character, and then the love interest is her guard. I don't want to spoil it, so might want to hit the skip button twice. It's just very gentle, but basically the story starts with a type of romance where it's forbidden romance, and we're trying to overcome the stigma of society, I don't know. And then in book 2 or later in book 1, it kind of turns into enemies to lovers. So that's kind of the situation we have. That's as deep as I'll get into spoilers, but I might mention something vaguely later. So I don't know. If you never read it, but you do want to read it, I don't know if this is the video for you, but if you've read it, you know what's up, or you didn't read it, but you just want some amazing romance wrecks, stick around. So the first book recommendation I have for you is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. So here we have Roma and Juliet. It's a 1920s Shanghai retelling of Romeo and Juliet. And we have Juliet, who's the daughter of the head of the Scarlet Gang. And then we have Roma, who's the son of the head of the White Flower Gang. When they were young, they met, fell in love, and then a betrayal happened, and they went their separate ways, and now they're enemies to lovers. And I felt it had a similar vibe of forbidden. Well, firstly, the romance was forbidden because they were from warring gangs that hated each other's guts, and then number 2, the betrayal. The betrayal happened as well here, and we trying to recover from that betrayal, and it turned hopeful forbidden lovers into bitter enemies, and then hopefully to lovers again. The sequel book is called Our Violent Ends, and I loved it maybe even more than These Violent Delights. Really, really good series. I loved it, and the sexual tension and the Roma and Juliet interacted. It was dagger to the throat and threatening each other, which is so From Blood and Ash, because Poppy, she likes her violence. Let's say it like that. And so does Juliet. So I think this is a perfect rec. Although it's not spicy, so there you go. I'll mention which ones are spicy, most aren't. So it's not necessarily if you like that type of spice, you will like these books. It's more about the emotional connection I had to the characters rather than the sexual content. Next up, we have Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. So in this one, we follow... Oh my god, what's their names? Anyway, we follow the main couple. So we follow the main character, who is a human girl with blue hair. That's a whole thing. What's unique about her is that her family are chimera, which are humanoid but also animalistic like creatures, and they're her family and she loves them very much, but one day her connection to them gets severed by this angel that come to take over or whatever, we don't know. So again, forbidden, warring races. I think it's so well written and so rich, and the characters are really cool, and the main character is pretty badass, just like Poppy is. So that's the reason I would put it on this list, but I really love this relationship. It's a little insta-lovey. If you don't like insta-love, I wouldn't call From Blood and Ash super insta-lovey because it kind of relies on that physical attraction. Obviously different from love, but yeah, this one's a little bit insta-lovey, that's my one thing, but I could forgive it. Next up we have The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. So in this book we have Evike and Gaspar. Evike is a girl who lives in a village full of magical women, but she herself has no powers as the only woman, so is considered kind of a bad luck and the black sheep of the village. Then we have Gaspar, who is a huntsman with woodsman, which is a guard, part of an army of the king, and the king requires tribute from this village and wants to take their witch, but they don't want to give up their witch, so they're giving up Evike. Enemies to lovers, dark, gritty. Took them a while. I really like this relationship. Again, it moved a little bit faster, but this is a standalone, so I really love a contained story, and I think it did a very good job considering it was just one book. Next up we have Mirage by Somaya Daud. So this book we have Amani and Idris. So Amani is a girl living on a planet, you know, just having fun, living her life, and then one day she gets kidnapped by the emperor's guards because she looks just like the crown princess or the princess, and she will be her doppelganger so that if she's ever in danger she can take her place. And then there's a romance that develops between her and Idris, who's a fiance of the princess, so he's actually betrothed to her, and he might or might not figure out whether she is actually the fiance or not. So we have like, you know, this double identity thing going on, kind of like From Blood and Ash. And then we also have obviously good pining and good conflict because he's engaged to someone else. So it's a complicated kind of forbidden situation because like even if he wasn't, he's a prince and she's a little nobody, so it wouldn't have happened smoothly either way. The romance isn't like the main plot and focus of this book, but I still really liked what we got and I thought it was executed very well. So if you like want a cool sci-fi novel about like duty and friendship and that kind of thing, and then a bit of romance in that as well, this one was executed so well. Next up we have The Wrath and the Dawn by Renée Ahdieh. So this book we have Shahrazad and Khalid. I really hope I said her name right. Khalid is a caliph or a prince in this like Arabian inspired world, and this is a retelling of 1001 Nights, Arabian Nights. So every day the prince marries a new woman, and after every night he kills her. Shahrazad's sister was chosen like that and was murdered, so now she wants to go in to the palace on purpose, and her mission is to kill the prince or the king, but she has to, well, not die first, so she has to convince him to basically let her live more than one night. The sexual tension of this book was just so on point, you would not believe it. I just found it so tense, and you have this like mounting doom, and it's just uncomfortable, and you don't know where Khalid's coming from, and you don't know where it's going, and you don't know what's gonna happen. So obviously this is very enemies to lovers, and also we have this really badass main character with a goal, and slowly falling, slowly warming up to the male love interest because they started off on such a rough path. But oh my god, it was so good. Book 2 was alright, but I really wish this was a standalone. I don't know why it needed to be a duology, but it was written beautifully. I read this twice, which I didn't do that much because I know I don't have time, but I love this book, and just like its sexual tension, girl, it was out of this world. This is like one of my all-time favorite romances, period. Next up we have Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. I scream out about this book just into infinity. So in it we have Anne and Levi, who Anne is a proper, you know, lady. She goes to finishing school, she has a bright future ahead of her, but one day her mother goes missing and she goes to the city of sin to find her, and she enlists help of Levi, who's like gang lord. I love this book so much. It maybe has the least of like plot similarities or relationship beats with From Blood and Ash, but it's just so much angst and pining, and we have, you know, someone who grew up really sheltered, Anne and Poppy, and then we have this, you know, bad boy. Oh. And this book is so cool. It's really diverse in terms of both ethnicities and sexualities. I just really love this, and the whole trilogy is just so good. None of the books let you down, which is just like a rare gem that you have to protect at all costs. She's innocent but strong-minded and grows so much throughout the series, and Levi is just so smoldering, and both of them have amazing chemistry, and I just loved how it was executed. Honestly, like, this is probably one of my all-time favorite ships. It's just amazing. Next up we have Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa. So this book we have Callie, who is a siren. I don't exactly remember what she can do, but she's like a magical creature. And then we have Des, who's the bargainer, and Callie, when she was younger, she made a lot of deals with the bargainer. So he will basically make a deal with you, give you a bead of like a bracelet thing, and that means you owe him. And normally he collects quite quickly and doesn't let people amass too many of these, but Callie has a whole armful of them, and 7 years after they split ways, he comes back to collect. So one caveat with this book, I really didn't like the parts when they were younger, because she was really young, maybe like 16, 17 years old, and he was this grown-ass man, and it just felt really wrong. Like, they never really got together when they were younger. It was more like they spent so much time together and developed a friendship, but it was still weird. But let's put that aside and go to the present, where they're both adults. Well, she's an adult, he's an immortal being, and now she's an adult, and they kind of get back together. So this one I really like, because it was really good, like second chance, or whatever you want to call it, romance, and like going back together, and from that place of mistrust and betrayal into love. And it's spicy, this one, so it's actually pretty spicy. So all the other ones not necessarily, but this one has that element as well. So if you like From Blood and Ash, you probably like that. So I thought that was executed really well, and I enjoyed it. I do want to continue, but yeah, it's just the age gap at first was like not it for me. Okay, next up we have Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. So here we have Yelena and Valek. Yelena, I don't remember, I've read this book many years, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, but Yelena gets sentenced to be executed, and on her execution day she has a proposal made to her. Either she will be executed, or she can keep her life, but she'll become the king's poisoner, not poisoner, but like, you know, the person who like checks there's no poison in the king's food. So she decides to become this royal poison detection machine, and I remember really loving this book. Yelena is just such an badass, and so she's so capable, but she's a badass, not the same way like Aileen from Front of Glasses or anyone like that, where it's like we're told how awesome the main character is, and then you just kind of have to be like, okay, she's awesome. No, she's awesome in a very understated but clever way. It's really, you know, a lot of show, don't tell, and I really like that. And then Valek, he's a guard, and he's pretty awesome too, from what I remember, and he's quite mature because in his 30s, I think. I don't actually remember how old Yelena is. It's an adult novel. I really like the dynamic between them from what I can remember. Again, it's been a while, so that's like, I'm sorry for that, but I did think they worked really well together, and there was a lot of sexual tension, and I just really liked how Yelena was capable, had to fend for herself in this completely new foreign environment, which is kind of reminds me of book 2 From Blood and Ash, you know, when you have to forge your own way and find your own path when you're like surrounded by enemies and in a very precarious situation. So both of them really worked well together, and I thought it was a really good book. Actually, I only read book 1 and 2, and I want to reread them and read book 3 because it's been too long to like not reread them, but they were very good, and I never hear that many people talk about it. Okay, next up we have The Winner's Curse by Mari Rutkowski. So this one is Kestra and Aaron, and I read this 4 years ago now, so I don't really remember, and I was way younger, so don't judge me, because I remember this book being good, but I'm not actually sure they was. I don't want to, you know, stake my claim here and be like, this is the best book ever, because I barely remember anything. But from what I do remember, basically we have Kestrel, who is a daughter of like a general, and she knows that she can either join the army or get married. That's pretty much her two only options. And then on one day she's on like a slave sale and decides to buy a slave called Aaron. I think it was like a very, like, she doesn't like go off and buy slaves all the time. It's just like, you know, spur of the moment decision, because I think he was gonna be murdered or something, I don't remember. But she buys him, and obviously it's forbidden, first of all, because she's the general's daughter, he's a slave, and also I don't remember how well the matter of slavery was handled in this. I have absolutely no clue. I'm sorry, it's been too long. When I was young, I remember thinking it was strange that that's the love interest. That's how they met. It just felt a bit off. But I don't remember thinking like this is the worst thing. Like it's done very badly. But again, I was younger. I don't know. 19-year-old Gabby, we don't stand by her opinions now. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt. We'll see. I maybe will want to reread this one as well. Basically, don't judge me. The last book I wanted to talk about is Promises and Pomegranates by Sav R. Miller. So this book is an erotic novel, and we have Elena and Kai. So Kai is like a handler or like a torturer for Elena's father, who is a head of the gang, and this is a Hades and Persephone retelling. Kai kind of half kidnaps, half just her father agrees to it, but takes her, marries her against her will, and they takes her to his island, and they develop a romance. I mean, it is mostly just about sex, and I didn't absolutely love this book to death, but when I was reading From Blood and Ash, it really reminded me of this couple because of their dynamic. It's like the Hades and Persephone thing. It's a dark romance, so there's like blades being whipped out, you know, in sexy scenes, so it's that kind of romance. So I thought maybe if you'll enjoy that spicy element from Blood and Ash, and you want to take it a step further, and you also enjoy that dynamic, maybe you'll enjoy this book. But I definitely, as we went down these three, I'm like the most, they were good, but anyway, those are all of the recommendations I have for you based on the serotonin boost you will get based on the fact that you like From Blood and Ash. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know, have you read any of these? Do you like these couples? Let me know what's your favorite, like enemies to lovers, precarious, forbidden romance. I really like forbidden romance. I think I do. I don't know. I think I like it. So please do let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video. If you could comment, like, and subscribe, I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. But that's it from me, and I see you in my next one. Bye.